The story begins with young Bruce peering into a bat cage. His father, who is also his teacher, Mr. Wayne, tells him to hurry up and go to Gotham Zoo with his friends to see the place later. Meanwhile, a man dressed all in black rides his motorcycle around Gotham City, while a news broadcast titled Crime Wave reports on the actions of the Party Animal Gang, who have killed 9 people, 2 of whom were police officers. The man in black has been circling Gotham 3 times in a row to observe the changes in the city, until he stops at a small shop to buy tea. His name is Alfred Pennyworth, and the shop where he shops belongs to Amir, who fled Kabul during the occupation, an event in which Alfred was also involved. Unbeknownst to him, Amir had often invited him to his house, and his son even learned cricket from Alfred. When Alfred bought tea, Amir warned Alfred not to park his motorcycle in front of the store, but Alfred did so anyway and put a chain on the tires as a precaution. He then looked into the peephole in front of his house, after which he entered the house. Inside the house, Alfred heated water, made tea, and took out his gun. On a table was a photo of him with his daughter Julia, and he left a message on her phone saying that he wanted to see her while he was in Gotham for a short time. After that, Alfred opened his laptop, made sure the connection was secure, and once the communication was connected, Alfred asked about his assignment. The voice on the laptop replied that over the past 3 months, a gang called the Party Animals had been causing chaos by randomly killing people, causing the death rate to rise to 700% due to their actions alone. They even burned down a daycare center yesterday and danced while 32 people were burning inside. Alfred said he had read the court records and just wanted to know why he was called here from Singapore, especially since he was already very close to his target. The voice from the laptop, which only showed a grid of boxes like in a game, replied that its task was to spy, and this time he wanted Alfred to gather information about the Party Animals, but not to attack them. After that, the laptop showed the faces of Party Animals members wearing black monkey masks and their possible locations. The voice continued that there would be other players targeting this gang, and Alfred could attack them if they got too close. The laptop showed that the voice was referring to the shadow of a large bat-like figure in the sky, which turned out to be Batman. The voice added that the coordinates of the area Alfred could investigate had been sent to his motorcycle. Then the voice bid farewell and left. Alfred simply nodded, telling himself not to question the mission and just carry it out, just like he had in Saigon, Khartoum, or Gotham. He grabbed his pistol and coat, then stepped outside to find his motorcycle gone from where he had parked it, with the chain that had been securing its tire now broken. At a gym called Crocs, a man was punching a punching bag while talking to himself, convincing himself not to be afraid or weak for tonight's event. But then Bruce arrived and said it was his turn. The man explained that he had a date later that night and needed to prepare because the world was cruel out there, but Bruce seemed unconcerned and told him to move aside. Bruce then hits the punching bag hard, attracting the attention of people nearby. In his mind, Bruce remembers when he was a child at the zoo and his father asked him what he learned from the lion in front of him. Bruce simply answered that the lion was alive, but his father told him to elaborate. So Bruce explained that lions sleep for 20 hours a day, eat meat 3 times a day, and have nothing to fear. His father added that lions can be pampered, but it won't change anything. Hearing this, young Bruce added that lions don't need to go to school, which was met with laughter from his friends. His father responded that Bruce couldn't say that to his teacher, and Bruce apologized, which his father accepted. As he recalled this, the adult Bruce hit the punching bag harder, even using his feet to swing it faster, and he prepared his fist to hit the bag again. Bruce's memory returns to when his father took him to the zoo with other children. His father asked if he was excited for their upcoming movie outing. Bruce asked if he had to go because he would just sleep there, but his father reminded him that it was where he and his mother had first met. However, his father then heard gunshots and shouted, "Oh God!" When Bruce's memory reached this point, he punched the punching bag so hard that it tore and the sand inside spilled out. Waylon, the gym owner, who was also Bruce's childhood friend, saw all this while carrying his pet snake and alligator, and commented in disbelief, "Really?" Bruce apologized, but Waylon told him to pay $90 for the punching bag and $30 for the sand. Bruce disagreed because he had already paid for the sand when he bought the bag, but Waylon explained that the money was for cleaning it, as his time was very valuable lately. Bruce asked if he would still go through with his plan, and Wayland confirmed it. He said he would name the place Wayland's Scales of Gotham. And besides, Ozzy had already introduced him to the exotic animal licensing place. Bruce put on his clothes while commenting that Ozzy would be caught soon, but Wayland said he could hide him well. After that, Wayland wanted to take him to a poker game with their friends because he hadn't been in months, but Bruce said he couldn't. Wayland tried to convince him that Eddie, Harvey, and Oz would be there, and he even tried to call Selena, but Bruce still said he couldn't go. Bruce then stops in front of a childhood photo of himself with Wayland and their other friends, while Wayland tries to get him to come to City Hall later that night. But Bruce says goodbye, saying he'll pay for the punching bag after he gets paid, while Wayland tries to tell him how bad Party Animal has been in their town and that they should do something about it. But Bruce doesn't want to listen and leaves. Meanwhile, on a yacht in the middle of the ocean, loud music can be heard coming from inside. Inside the yacht, there is luxurious food, a DJ, and a child and the mother, both wearing black helmets, swimming in the pool. Mr. Maroney is smoking a cigar and sarcastically asks if it can be any louder, but Roman Sionis, the yacht's owner, actually tells the DJ named Dr. Benjamin to turn up the music. Maroney and his friend Falcone question whether this is a festival, and with all the music and food, Roman justifies it. Roman's wife comes out of the pool and invites him to swim with her. Maroney asks about the Party Animal Gang, who he says are Roman's people, while Falcone adds that they kill people at will. Finally, Maroney says that Gotham has rules. Suddenly, Roman's kid calls him to dance, so Roman invites Maroney and Falcone to join them, while the night is still young. But Maroney says that it's 3 a.m. Roman should put his kid to bed, turn off the music, and start listening to them talk. Finally, Roman tells Dr. Benjamin to turn off the music and start listening to them. Maroney starts by mentioning that he heard Roman is a rich man, while Falcone continues by saying that Roman spreads his animal minions around, like goats and giraffes, and that Roman is connected to the Illuminati or something similar. Maroney said that they had been in Gotham for 150 years, and Roman needed to respect that history. Falcone added that they had brothers and cousins all over the city, so Roman had to leave on his ship at dawn or he would die. At that moment, his wife, who was just wearing her bathrobe, suggested that Roman show them the mask. Roman agreed and told the two men that what he was celebrating here was a history that had ended. He then showed them some of his collection of death masks, explaining that there was one that was rumored to be Socrates himself, of which there were only 2 in the world, one made of Mycenaean gold, and the other, owned by Roman, made of marble dust. Then, to his left, there was Martin Luther, made of beeswax and pine resin. At that moment, his wife took a bottle of champagne, and Roman continued that next to it was a mask of George Washington, made of plaster of Paris from a Virginia mine. Then there was the mask of Maroney's brother, and Maroney recognized him as Sal. After that, next to him was Falcone's cousin, along with the rest of his family. Roman said that there were still 2 places left for their heads. At that moment, Maroney let out a muffled cry, and it turned out that Roman's kid had stabbed Maroney in both eyes with a knife. After that, used a rope to strangle Falcone while Roman clinked his champagne glass with his wife's glass and told Dr. Benjamin to play the music again. At that moment, a woman on Gotham News reported that 6 more people had been killed by Party Animal. Another man asked who they were, and someone said they were crazy kids. A man wearing glasses added that in the footage, they used machetes to cut their victims. It was clear that the members of Party Animal were wearing black masks and pointing guns, and even the women in the gang were trampling on the helpless victims. The woman in the news broadcast says again that they are praying for Gotham. Then the man beside her adds that in an emergency meeting at City Hall tonight, Mayor Jim Gordon wants to discuss a solution for Party Animal, and they hope it will yield satisfactory results. At that moment, the shadow of a man wearing a mask is seen on top of a building, then flying away with bat wings. Currently, at City Hall, the crowd is speaking simultaneously, so Gordon points to one person to speak first. The person says they are giving Gordon a chance because he used to be a police officer, but under Mayor Hill, no residents were killed. A bald man said that Hamilton Hill was a criminal, but another man replied that even though he was a criminal, he was tough. A woman with her hair tied back added that Hamilton would at least fight back. Gordon tried to calm them down, saying that they would fight back too, but he was interrupted by an old man. He said that he had a tailor shop on 27th Street and had been coming to his shop for 71 years, except when his son was born and his wife died. But now he was too afraid to go to his shop. At that moment, Pennyworth monitored the situation from above City Hall. He saw members of the party animals arriving with their weapons, then reported it, and requested permission to attack if there were casualties. But Pennyworth was not allowed to attack because his job was only to monitor. Inside City Hall, Gordon reassures everyone that they will punish the gang with police assistance. But one resident says the police station was burned down 2 hours ago, and the police are running around Kane and 3rd Streets, so he thinks the police are useless. A police commissioner standing next to Gordon becomes emotional and prepares his baton, but Gordon tells the man named Bullock to calm down, and Bullock appears to hold back his emotions. At that moment, a female City Hall employee, who was also Bruce's mother, tried to say that this was exactly what the killer wanted, for them to be afraid and blame each other. She added that she believed in Gordon, and that she believed the residents were better than this. It shouldn't just be the mayor and Commissioner Bullock stopping the killer, but everyone. But suddenly, a bomb was thrown into the crowd and 3 members of the party animals arrived pointing their guns. Seeing them, Gordon tried to divert their attention by telling them to deal with him instead, but the man immediately shot Gordon, causing him to fall to the ground. Coincidentally, Gordon's daughter Barbara was there to help. When her father fell, he told Barbara to get everyone out of there. At that moment, the party animals members at the City Hall entrance were about to shoot the people inside, but suddenly they were pulled out of the door and the door closed. Barbara told everyone inside the building to move to the back, while a police officer near the door peeked through the blinds and saw many party animals members outside. Barbara then tried to open the door and saw Batman telling her not to open it no matter what she heard outside. Meanwhile, Pennyworth was asked for a report on the casualties, but he said there were no casualties because the other player, Batman, had appeared. Pennyworth was ordered to attack the other player if he interfered with the information gathering process, and Pennyworth agreed. Outside the building, when the party animals members who had been pulled out saw Batman hanging upside down on the roof, they shot at him, but his cape blocked the bullets. After that, Batman dropped a black smoke bomb while jumping down, accompanied by a barrage of gunfire from the 3 men. Batman stepped on one party animals member and used the tip of his cape to tie the neck of another member, then threw him through a glass window. He then pulled off the mask of the red-clad man and threw it at a streetlight, then jumped and kicked 2 other attackers who came to help the 3 men, using his cape as a foothold on the ground. Pennyworth watched all this in amazement, and even when asked if the other player, aka Batman, was interfering with the data collection process, Pennyworth did not admit it, and reasoned that he was still collecting data. He returned to stalking Batman through the scope of his rifle. It was clear that more party animals were coming, but Batman removed both ears from his mask, which turned out to be boomerangs that he used to attack the approaching party animals. Several other boomerangs also embedded themselves in the right and left arms of a party animal member, and the weapons smoothly returned to Batman's arms. From Batman's attacks, Pennyworth realized that Batman was trained in several martial arts, including Muay Thai, BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and a mix of other martial arts. According to Pennyworth, Batman intentionally made his attacks sound like a warning, and his knife strikes deliberately avoided arteries, indicating that Batman is not a killer. After finishing using the knife in his hand, he returned it to his mask. In front of him stood a muscular party animals member wielding a large knife, who claimed to have killed many people with it. Batman then pulled out a small stick that, when the button was pressed, transformed into an axe. When the muscular man advanced to attack, Batman managed to cut off his hand with a single strike. He said that someone had told him the hand could be reattached, so he ordered him to leave. He did the same with the other party animals, telling them to leave while drawing sharp weapons from his arms and back. Without waiting long, they ran down the stairs, but Batman pressed the remote button on his hand, and a bomb exploded where the people had been running. At that moment, Pennyworth received orders to attack Batman after his superior saw the satellite imagery. Pennyworth then put away his gun and pulled out another weapon, pointing it at Batman and saying that this was the sound of a DC-34 automatic weapon that would blow his head off. Batman, who was observing the mask of the party animals, kicked Pennyworth and caught the gun that had been thrown into the air. After that, he said, "Sounds dangerous," while holding onto his armor and flying upward. The next day, Pennyworth, who had discovered Batman's identity, followed Bruce as he worked on the construction of a building. As Bruce walked home, Pennyworth saw him through his car. He knew that Bruce was 24 years old, his mother was a social worker, his father was a teacher, and he had grown up in Crime Alley with many friends. Bruce was an extremely intelligent child with near-genius scores. He even won a civil engineering competition by designing a foldable bridge that could be transported anywhere to deliver aid to war-torn and disaster-stricken areas. His design resembled origami and was based on bat anatomy. As a reward, his entire class was taken to Gotham Zoo, where a tragedy occurred. At that moment, Bruce's father heard gunshots and directed the children into the Batcave, telling them not to open the door no matter what they heard outside. After that, Bruce's father closed the door without heeding Bruce's pleas to come inside the Batcave. Soon after, more gunshots were heard outside. Back to the present, Pennyworth followed Bruce and saw him getting on the train. He noticed his phone inside the train and got off when they reached their destination. It turned out Bruce had gone to Gotham Zoo, which was already closed. He picked a flower by the roadside and placed it in front of the Batcave's door. Pennyworth also looks around the zoo after Bruce leaves. He reads that bats like to hang upside down on roofs and can walk on their hands, just like the abilities Batman demonstrated yesterday. Pennyworth's memory returned to the information he found about Bruce, that he had been arrested by the police due to his anger toward the world, then regained his senses and started going to school again to earn a scholarship to attend the best university in America. However, Bruce was injured while playing football, but when Pennyworth saw the X-ray results, he knew the injury was intentional to avoid his obligations. Pennyworth looked at Bruce and thought that he could have been a professional athlete, but he deliberately quit just to fight like he did last night. He studied applied mechanics, chemistry, criminal psychology, military theory, social and cultural history, and all of this was just part of his preparation. After that, Bruce returned to Gotham and worked in the electrical grid, the water resources department, and the sanitation division. Soon, Bruce interned at City Hall to study public regulations, both macro and micro, and learn about Gotham until he eventually became an engineer again. He even repaired the stairs he had blown up the night before. Pennyworth acknowledged Bruce's abilities, but he had killed many people like Bruce because they always had weaknesses. At that moment, Bruce was seen meeting his mother, who complained that he had just arrived. Bruce said that he had just been to the zoo. His mother told him that she had almost convinced the citizens to trust her at City Hall, but then the party animals arrived. Pennyworth watched them while preparing his gun. He could easily shoot Bruce now, but at that moment, he received a message from his daughter refusing to meet him. Meanwhile, in front of his eyes, he saw Bruce walking while hugging his mother. Here, he thought Bruce was just a spoiled child, so he didn't shoot him at that moment. After that, at the highest point of the skyscraper piercing the clouds, Bruce is seen in front of his computer recording his observations of the monkey mask worn by the party animals. According to him, the mask isn't just for protection or to scare people. Because when he opened it, there was something inside the circuitry. However, Bruce suddenly stops recording because he senses Pennyworth's arrival. Meanwhile, Pennyworth was sneaking into the building and commented on how clever Bruce's strategy was to hide here, as the top floor of the building was never used, and Bruce knew that because he worked there. At that moment, Batman appears before him with Pennyworth's DC-34 weapon. Knowing he's not a killer, Pennyworth lowers his weapon and tells Batman to hand over his weapon, but Batman shoots him in the face and leaves on a black motorcycle. Moments later, Pennyworth, lying on the ground, realized that his gun had been modified to be non-lethal. After shooting him, Batman threw the gun near him and said he could keep it. Additionally, Pennyworth recognized the sound of the motorcycle Batman was riding as the sound of his stolen motorcycle, and Batman also said that Pennyworth wasn't the only one who could follow people. He then heard the sound of his motorcycle tires shattering the window and jumped out of the tall building. At that moment, Pennyworth turned around and stood up, wondering where Batman would land next. A few moments later, Pennyworth was already at his house. He contacted his superior and said that he would get Batman when he showed up, and his superior agreed, adding that he should focus on the party animals. His superior continued that they had lost track of Pennyworth's previous target in the Philippines, even though Pennyworth had been following him for 5 years, ever since his target studied with Henri Ducard in France and then killed him. He also mentioned that the target had been training with the League of Assassins, then killed them, but now he had disappeared again. In Manila, at a semiconductor fabrication plant, a helicopter pilot asked his co-pilot if it was true that their client this time only wanted to be called Sir without any other name. And the co-pilot confirmed it, as all the names were also fake. He added that someone among the 30 richest people in the world could use any name they liked. The pilot asked if the person wanted to be his generous friend, but the co-pilot reminded him not to joke with their client, as he never laughed in any situation, which is why he was called the Joker. At that moment, outside the helicopter, Joker was shaking hands with someone who bowed to him. After that, he walked toward his helicopter, and as he boarded, his green eyes glanced toward where the pilot was sitting. Back to the past, young Bruce. In front of the door, his father was dead, leaning against the outside of the bat-shaped door. Behind the door, Bruce was crying, begging his father to open the door, but there was a bat in front of Bruce making noises. Then a swarm of bats appeared through a hole in the window and attacked Bruce. Back to the present. After the incident at City Hall, the party animals have become even more chaotic in Gotham, and in response, Batman has intensified his fight against them. As is the case now, while the party animals are attacking the Gotham Aquarium, Batman is seen punching a party animal member until he falls to the ground like his other comrades. Several other party animals members fired at Batman, but their shots bounced off his costume. Batman then used the tip of his cape, which was made of iron and shaped like a hook, to latch onto the neck of a party animals member. Shortly after, 2 small knives are embedded in Batman's back while bullets continue to rain down on him. Moments later, the party animals regroup and move in to attack Batman, but he extends sharp spikes from his back, shattering the aquarium tank behind him, then jumps upward and uses the tip of his cape to latch onto the ceiling. When the party animals got back up and realized that the seawater from the aquarium wasn't dangerous, Batman took a ball from a small pouch on his belt and dropped it into the puddle below. It turned out to be a solid form of highly concentrated vinegar, which turned the seawater into hydrochloric acid. The party animals members ran out of the Gotham Aquarium, burned by the hydrochloric acid. Elsewhere, Pennyworth was watching Batman's movements. He believed Batman's actions were helping his work, so he didn't stop him, and even protected Batman. The more Batman obstructed the Zionists' plans, the more the Zionists deployed their men, which aided Pennyworth's task. After that, Batman was seen running out of the back door of the Gotham Aquarium, and Pennyworth was still monitoring Batman through CCTV cameras on the street. He then saw Batman enter a water channel. Thus, Pennyworth obtained the location of Batman's headquarters, which turned out to be shaped like a bat. The next day, Pennyworth learns that when Bruce isn't Batman, his schedule is very busy. He is seen working, then disappearing afterward. There are rumors that he meets with the Red Hood resistance group, but in reality, he works alone and has never met his mother. He only broke his routine once, and that surprised Pennyworth because he went to Blackgate Prison to meet the man who killed his father, Joseph Chill. Pennyworth had no audio recording and only a video of their meeting, so he didn't know what Bruce said, but he could guess, and he liked Bruce even more because of it. A week later, Pennyworth's superior orders him to remove Batman's protection because Batman has become too dangerous. At first, Pennyworth wants to give the excuse that provoking Batman helps him find out who Sionis is and where he comes from. But in the end, he removes Batman's protection anyway. Not long after, the party animals find Batman's hideout in a skyscraper, like the one Pennyworth used to be in. When the party animals are about to attack the place, Pennyworth also sees the incident through CCTV. He wants Batman to understand that he needs to retreat and rearrange his plans. But that moment never came, because when the party animals were about to attack Batman, he wasn't there. Instead, the upper floor of the building exploded, followed by 2 explosions below, causing the fire to look like a terrifying face. Meanwhile, Batman witnessed everything from afar, and Pennyworth finally realized that Batman had always been one step ahead. On TV, Hill, the former mayor, is asked by a news anchor named Justine about the polls supporting Batman's existence. Hill responds that if Gordon can't protect the citizens, they'll have to seek help from criminals. Here, he also admits that he plans to run for mayor again. Hearing Hill's statement, one of the hosts asks about the corruption allegations against him. Gordon, who is watching the news broadcast in his hospital room, tells Bullock to turn off the TV. Bullock turns off the TV while reporting that he has requested 4 RVs and 1 MD for the pursuit. But Gordon reminds him that more ammunition does not necessarily mean victory. Bullock felt that perhaps they had been underarmed, which was why they had failed to take down the man, while Barbara, who heard this, was surprised because they were supposed to take down the party animals, not Batman. Bullock replied that the party animals were getting crazier because Batman was also interfering with them, but Barbara tried to remind him that Batman had helped them all. However, Bullock believed Batman was no different from the party animals, who wanted to make the police look bad. But Barbara disagreed because Batman had informed the police about the party animals' next target and was helping fight them. At that moment, Martha, Bruce's mother, arrived and hugged Barbara, asking about Gordon. Gordon replied that he was fine, but Martha wanted Barbara to answer, and Barbara explained that her father should rest but didn't want to listen. Suddenly, Bullock receives a call informing him that the party animals are attacking the Port Authority, so Bullock asks Barbara to check it out, and Martha reminds her to be careful. Barbara then says goodbye to her father and tells him to rest. After Barbara leaves, Martha comments that Barbara is a good girl, and Gordon agrees. He feels that the world their children live in now is terrible, but back then, they were crazy and felt they could change it. Martha responds that maybe their children need to be crazier than they were. Gordon then sits on his bed while Martha opens the window and lights a cigarette, which she then hands to Gordon. Gordon responded that Martha sounded like Thomas, and Martha said that she missed Thomas and felt that if Thomas were still alive, he would like Batman. Gordon accepted the cigarette while saying that he liked Thomas, but now he liked Martha more. Gordon told her that Patty, his deputy mayor, had resigned and that he felt it was impossible for him to run for re-election. Martha felt that from the start the mayor's job had felt impossible, but it was a good kind of impossible. Gordon then changed the subject to when he found Bruce at the zoo. At the time, Gordon hadn't even seen Bruce in the bat house because Bruce was covered by a swarm of bats, but then Bruce screamed, and that scream was what he remembered. Gordon returned the cigarette to Martha and asked how Bruce was doing now. Martha extinguished the cigarette and threw it away, saying she didn't know because before the incident at the zoo, Bruce used to tell her stories. But after that, Martha no longer recognized Bruce. In Martha's memory of when Bruce was a child, Bruce was looking at the medal he had won in a competition, and his mother told him that his friends were waiting outside, but Bruce told her to leave. His mother tried to persuade him to meet them, but Bruce shouted at her. Finally, Martha closed the door, and Bruce cried before throwing the medal out the window. Back to the present, where Bruce arrives at his friend's poker game. Ozzy jokes that they're happy he's there, and Waylon even records it as a keepsake, while Bruce just says he's been busy. Auntie asks him not to take his picture, and Ozzy asks if he's too good for them, now that he works for the district attorney. Auntie replies that he's not too good for them, just for Ozzy. Hearing this, Ozzy calls him two-faced. After that, Bruce placed his money on the poker table and asked about Auntie's bet, and he bet $20, while Eddie bet $1,728 according to the cubic foot volume, which is 12 by 12 by 12. Ozzy added that if Bruce didn't have $20, he had a promissory note he could sign, but Bruce used a poker chip to hit Ozzy's face. Waylon tried to stop the fight as everyone gathered. Bruce said there was one person missing, and Eddie asked where Selena was, and Waylon said he had received a postcard from Selena in Cairo a few months ago. Eddie then discarded one of his cards while Bruce raised the bet by $20, and Ozzy peeked at his card while Auntie raised the bet by $200 and asked what card Bruce had. But Bruce instead pulled out the party animals mask he had already opened the mechanism of. Ozzy asked where he got it, and Bruce said he found it because he had been part of the repair crew at City Hall. Waylon told Bruce to take it out of here, and Auntie also said there were no monkey skulls allowed here. But Bruce explained it wasn't a monkey skull, and told them to look at the wires. Eddie confirmed Bruce's words because there were 3 chips visible outside, and he recognized one of them as GIS. Ozzy told Eddie to explain, and Eddie said it was a map shared online, so if they could decode it, they could find out the party animal's next target. Eddie then comments that the other chip is something premier, and Bruce asks if it's more premier than Eddie's job, but eventually Eddie borrows the mask from Bruce. Bruce adds to the bet, saying that the party animals use high-tech weapons and attack other people's territories. He then calls Ozzy, but Ozzy gets angry because he thinks Bruce knows about the party animals. However, Bruce was actually asking about the bet. Ozzy comments that the party animals don't operate in anyone's territory, but they only destroy the city, especially since Roman, their boss, kills anyone who makes an offer to him. Ozzy says he's out of the game. Eddie also leaves because he has a king, while Waylon also leaves and comments that Bruce is very enthusiastic. Bruce says that only Harv, aka Auntie, is playing with him. He asks Harv again if this is a political move because the party animals are moving close to election time, and if it's a way to take down Gordon. But Harv thinks that's excessive because Gordon was already hurt before the chaos, and if it's a political move, then it's more than just power. Harv looked at his cards, as did Bruce. Bruce then asked what was bigger than power, and Harv answered that it was money. He then revealed his cards, which were 2 pairs, and asked about Bruce's cards. Bruce has 3 aces, and 4 if the Joker is allowed here, but Harv says the Joker isn't accepted here, which is met with laughter from his other friends. Harv adds that he doesn't know if this has anything to do with the party animals, but what he heard at City Hall is that Hill received a lot of funding, and a man working for him, Haiti, said Hill has a new financial source he calls the Golden Chest. A few moments later, Batman is seen on top of the building using his cape as a rope to descend to the floor where Hill's campaign office is located. Batman then walks into the room, picks the lock with a small needle, connects a USB drive to the laptop in the room, and finds the Arc M folder. When opened, there is a video of Roman welcoming Batman, offering him everything he wants, but on the condition that he must survive because Roman has contacted the GCPD, Gotham City Police Department, and his men have surrounded the area. Party animals were seen aiming at Batman's location and launching missiles at it, but Batman appeared unharmed. He walked toward the elevator, then descended with both feet braced on either side of the elevator until he reached the bottom. At that moment, Batman senses another presence and sees Pennyworth beside him. Pennyworth intends to help him and tells Batman to listen because the party animals are not what Batman thinks they are. Finally, Batman gives him 30 seconds to speak. Pennyworth then suggested they get out of there and go to a safe place, offering his car from behind if Batman didn't have one. But suddenly, Batman stepped on the gas pedal, and the floor where Pennyworth was standing shook. Batman said Pennyworth was standing on top of his car. After that, Batman stepped on the gas pedal again, causing the car to move and crash into the building's wall. It turned out the car was very large. Back to when Bruce was a child. Selina entered Bruce's room through the window and asked him if he had lost something. At that moment, Selina was wearing the medal that Bruce had thrown away earlier around her neck. When Bruce lifted his head, she invited him to go somewhere with her. The story begins with little Bruce chasing Selina because he wants her to return his medal. They jump from one building rooftop to another, but when faced with a cable he must cross, Bruce hesitates. However, Selina tries to reassure him that everything will be fine, that Bruce just needs to look ahead like a cat. Selina then demonstrates by stepping on the cable until she reaches the other end. Bruce follows her across the cable while listening to Selina explain that cats have good eyesight but can only see what is directly in front of them. However, Bruce's steps are unsteady and he is about to fall. Fortunately, Selina pulls Bruce up onto the roof and reassures him that he is fine. After that, they walked hand in hand, and Selina reminded Bruce again to use the cat's eyes technique she had taught him, and Bruce agreed. In another memory, little Bruce was being carried by Gordon, who was running out of the zoo, watched by a lion from its cage. Back to the present. Pennyworth is on top of a garbage truck modified by Batman into a bat-shaped vehicle. This time, Pennyworth feels intense hatred toward Batman because he has spent 4 decades building a life as a spy with 20 passports and twice as many identities. Pennyworth takes pride in being nobody, a man barely remembered on a train, but now he's on this massive vehicle with people gathered around Broadway. Pennyworth scolds Batman, saying he can't drive so openly on the streets because they'll be caught if they continue like this. But Batman responds that it means the 30 seconds he gave Pennyworth starts now. Behind them, the party animals are riding motorcycles armed with missile launchers and rifles, firing at Batman's car, while Pennyworth tries to avoid their shots. He begins explaining that in his line of work, there's someone named Black Mask. Meanwhile, the party animals order their men to burn Batman's car. Pennyworth returns fire while continuing his explanation that Black Mask has a secret paramilitary group whose job is to serve the most powerful people on Earth. They can cause local governments to collapse, create violent disturbances, and Pennyworth believes that the leader of the party animals is Black Mask himself. Meanwhile, the party animals member carrying the missile launcher fired the missile at Batman's car, but it missed and hit the wall in front of the car. At that moment, Pennyworth was still firing at the party animals following their car. Batman reminded him that he only had 25 seconds left, but Pennyworth said they wouldn't even last 5 seconds if they didn't find another faster vehicle immediately. Batman replied that he would pretend Pennyworth didn't say that, then Batman pressed a button, followed by the sound of hydraulics scraping, and then the sound of metal shifting from its frame. Soon, even the roof of the car above Pennyworth began to shrink and nearly hit his head, but seeing the car's transformation made Pennyworth feel that he was starting to like Batman more. Batman reminded Pennyworth that he only had 20 seconds left, assuming he could survive that long. The shrinking car then sped off at high speed. Pennyworth, still outside the car, dodged the party animals' gunfire while smelling the burning smell of kerosene. He realized that the car's jet engine was Batman's own creation. Pennyworth then enters the hatch in the car, shouting that he can help Batman, but Batman only tells him to close the hatch and prove it. Pennyworth enters the hatch and grabs the controls of the weapon facing the back of the car, emphasizing that if Sionis is indeed Black Mask, then he is an enemy too powerful to face, as his resources are too vast. Pennyworth then fires mini-bat projectiles with different electrical charges designed to blow up the car's tires. Batman responds to Pennyworth's input by saying that he will build an even bigger device to deal with him, reminding him that there are only 10 seconds left. Behind them, the party animals' motorcycles explode due to Batman's device, while Pennyworth says that Sionis has made an offer to Batman, meaning he is ready to compromise. According to Pennyworth, this indicates that whatever Sionis is doing in Gotham is almost complete. Batman asks Pennyworth what he means, but suddenly the party animals start chasing them again with cars armed with machine guns, firing at their car from behind. Pennyworth suggests that Batman meet with Sionis and make a deal so that Sionis will cease his attacks on Gotham, allowing Batman to become a hero. However, Batman refuses, as he believes this would be surrender. Batman then presses a button, releasing a metal ball attached to his car, which strikes the party animals on motorcycles and their vehicles, destroying them. Pennyworth reassures Batman that this is a diplomatic move, with Black Mask offering at least hundreds of millions, which Batman could use to build something new and more influential. Batman asks what Pennyworth gets out of this, and Pennyworth explains that Sionis will make the offer by giving Pennyworth's superiors what they want, allowing Pennyworth to leave this place in the end. Batman asks if the Sionis will just let them go, and Pennyworth explains that the data he obtained here will be used by him and his people to capture the Sionis eventually. Suddenly, police sirens begin to sound, and a group of police cars are seen chasing them, with Commissioner Harvey Bullock ordering Batman and his friends to get out of the car. It turns out that Batman's car has stopped at the end of the pier, with the sea below them, while behind them are police cars and above them is a helicopter also chasing them. Pennyworth asks what the next plan is, and Batman tells him to pull the lever in front of him. Pennyworth pulls the lever, which throws him out of the vehicle and into the sea. The car then plunges into the water, entering a tunnel that takes it out of the sea. Back when Bruce was a child, he asked about Selina's new adoptive parents, but Selina replied that they weren't there anymore. Bruce asked how that could be, and Selina explained that people sometimes like the idea of being adoptive parents, but don't like the reality, and that was still the good part. What Selina faced was the worst part. At that moment, they arrived at a place with many cats surrounding Selina. Bruce asked again if this was her third home in a year, but Selina replied that it was her fourth. Bruce wondered where she was living now, but Selina answered that she was here with Bruce and the cats. Bruce tried to invite Selina to live with him because his mother also liked her, but Selina refused, and they left. After that, Selina talked about the lions at the zoo that were released back to Tanzania after the zoo closed. Then Selina invited him to sneak into the cinema and watch the movie. In the present, Bruce visits Eddie in his lab to ask him something, but Eddie tells him to ask the robot he's working on because he's inside it. Bruce asks if it has a name, and Eddie says he was going to name it A.L. after Alan Turing, the Library of Alexandria, and a play on words from AI or Riddleman. Bruce then asks A.L. about how the party animal's monkey skull works, and A.L. explains that its first task is to hide the user's identity from local and global tracking devices. Second, the mask is connected to a cryptocurrency wallet called Black Coin. Third, the mask assigns a value to each target. Bruce asks what that means, and A.L. explains that each crime has a different price in Black Coin. Bruce asked again how to destroy the connection, but A.L. replied that it was impossible because even if the local server was destroyed, there was still a satellite connection linked to hundreds, even thousands of members worldwide. Bruce insists there must be a way, but A.L. says there isn't. So Bruce turns to Eddie, but Eddie only tells him to destroy the mask and forget about it. A.L. even adds that Eddie doesn't want to help him. Bruce argues that he was just asking, but Eddie explains that being smart makes him know too much and makes it hard to have friends. So as his friend, Eddie is reminding Bruce to stop this. But suddenly, Bruce's phone rings with a call from Harvey. Harvey, who is about to enter court, reports the results of his investigation into ARC-M's funds, most of which come from JK Holdings, a company with various businesses and many branches around the world, but with one specialization: building private prisons. Most of their customers are people from the underworld who receive investments from biotechnology, pharmaceutical, and genomics companies. And whatever happens in this place is not good. At this moment, Sionis' yacht is docked at a pier. Hill welcomes Commissioner Harvey, but Harvey says first that he will not support Hill, and Hill says that he will not take it from Jimmy. Hill then looks at Dr. Benjamin on the yacht and asks if Sionis can meet them, and Dr. Benjamin replies that he is in the gym. They then follow Dr. Benjamin while Harvey reminds him that he came here because Hill said he could help him, and Hill replies that he can help through Sionis. In the gym, Hill introduces Harvey Bullock to Roman Sionis, who appears to be preparing to fight Bibbo Bibowski, the Southpaw champion from Suicide Slum, who is idolized by Harvey. Sionis welcomes Harvey and tells him to make himself at home, as he is still fighting Bibowski. Bibowski attacks with a kick as Harvey asks why Sionis is wearing a mask, but Sionis ducks to avoid the kick while answering that his work requires anonymity. Bibowski prepares to punch Sionis when Harvey asks about his job, and he replies that he is a lover of peace. Sionis dodges the punch and grabs Bibowski's hand, locking it with both feet. Sionis continues to pull Bibowski's hand until a bone breaks. Sionis explains that he brings peace to troubled areas around the world, like Gotham under Jim Gordon, where Gotham was destroyed by evil people. Harvey responded that he didn't want to hear Sionis slander Jimmy, and Sionis understood that Harvey and Jimmy had a bond, but the party animals were immoral, and their numbers were growing. Plus, with Batman and the soft-handed handling, it would only get worse. Sionis then grabs Bibowski's right leg and pulls it until it breaks, then pulls his head back until Bibowski is in pain. At this point, Harvey responds that this situation will start a war. Sionis holds Bibowski's head and ignores the tapping on his leg, which signifies surrender, continuing to pull his head while adding that the additional RV fleet and helicopters Harvey requested can be provided by Sionis through state channels and are ready for use. Harvey didn't respond, but asked Sionis to stop attacking Bibowski, but it was too late. Bibowski appeared lifeless when Sionis released his grip. Harvey asked if he was dead, but Sionis told him to ignore it and suggested they talk elsewhere. Elsewhere, Bruce is seen carrying a tachometer on an island across from Gotham. Upon seeing Gotham through the tachometer, he can only mutter, "The hell." According to Pennyworth, the black prison created by Black Mask for his clients is called the Ark, with Ark A located in Sanapiska, Ark B in Russia, and Ark C in China. Meanwhile, the largest Ark is planned to be located in Gotham under the name Ark M. Meanwhile, Pennyworth is seen driving a small van to a certain place. Back to little Bruce's memory. He tries to leave the cinema, but Selina won't let go of his hand. She reminds Bruce that he has a talent that no one else has, but he is afraid, and Selina understands that. After that, Selina mentions the cat's eye technique, but Bruce doesn't want to listen. He tries to leave, but suddenly, Waylon, Eddie, Harvey, and Ozzy appear, sit Bruce back down in his seat, and invite him to watch the Zorro movie with them. At the back of the cinema, Bruce's mother is watching everything and smiling. At Bruce's house, his mother was startled to see him arrive early in the morning while she was getting ready to go to work. She asked what was wrong, but Bruce only said he happened to be passing by. However, his mother recognized him and told him to talk. Bruce then said that with the chaos in the city, maybe his mother should hide for a while. His mother replied that she couldn't hide, as she was Jim's running mate for deputy mayor and would be attending a press conference that day. His mother was seen wearing a pin in support of Jim. Bruce asked why his mother wanted to be deputy mayor when the party animals were targeting officials, and his mother replied that she believed in Jim and wanted to help the city. Bruce asks again if this isn't too much for her to handle, and she says that she at least wants to try to do something like his father did. Bruce tells his mother that she needs to look at where his father ended up because of his attitude, and she replies that she's going to kiss him so she doesn't slap him. She kisses Bruce on the forehead and leaves. Meanwhile, Pennyworth goes to where his daughter Julia works. He sees Julia with her students, and when one of the children kicks a ball towards his car, Julia offers to retrieve it and sees Pennyworth's car driving away. On the other hand, the party animals are back on the rampage, burning down the city, shooting at citizens, overturning trains, and killing people without mercy. On the other hand, TV broadcasts a press conference where Hill is giving a speech as a candidate for mayor to replace Jim. He proudly says that Bullock and the GCPD support him for the candidacy. He also said that for tomorrow's commemoration of the Gotham Zoo shooting, they shouldn't need to turn on the warning lights for the first time. After that, the news anchor asked where Batman was and how he would respond to this. Meanwhile, Bruce was at Gotham Zoo, sitting curled up in front of the party animal skull while listening to an offer from Sionis on his phone. Sionis wanted to give Batman $200 million to hide for a week, promising to reduce the chaos in Gotham. Sionis was talking about how much he could do with that money, but Bruce stopped him and replied that he accepted Sionis' offer. We see a flashback of young Bruce in court asking to speak before Chill, the man who killed his father, gives his statement. He says that it is very important. This is not usually done, but because this is not a normal case, the judge allows him to speak. Bruce appears to be in tears as he is asked to begin. Meanwhile, several men who were members of the 10 Thieves cornered 3 kiosk owners in Crime Alley. One of the thugs, named Raph, asked why only they were unwilling to pay protection money, while Mrs. Nguyen, the only woman there, replied that she needed to support her mother and 3 children, so she would not pay their gang. Raph protests, saying that the 10 Thieves aren't a gang but just want to protect the area, but without funding, they can't do it. Raph then pushes Mrs. Nguyen off the roof, using her fall as an example of how life is full of uncertainty if Raph and his friends don't keep them safe. But suddenly, Mrs. Nguyen was thrown back onto the roof from below, while Raph was confused about how this could happen. He then looked down and asked his friends, Alec and Simon, if they saw anything, but Simon replied, no. At that moment, behind Simon and Brody, Batman appeared, jumping toward them while screaming like a bat. He approached Brody and bit his neck until Brody's mouth foamed and he fell limp. After that, Batman used his claws to injure Simon. Raph looked panicked and pulled out his gun to threaten Batman, but when he fired, the bullet bounced off Batman's cape. Batman immediately hit Raph's neck and took his gun, pointing it at Raph. Back when Bruce was a child, his father was still alive. Bruce was preparing for the Young Engineer competition to be held at the zoo. They were going to build a bridge for the underprivileged area where the zoo animals came from, and the theme was animals. For that, Bruce chose bats. Bruce asked his father for his opinion on the bridge he was building, and his father said it looked big. Bruce agreed. He wanted to make a bridge that looked intimidating, like a bat, so he made the pillars tall and strong. His father was unsure if that was the right idea to intimidate the people from the area in need of help, but Bruce believed it would make them feel safe and protected by its strength, especially since the bridge could hold up to 30 pounds. His father still looked unsure, but praised Bruce's hard work. Bruce, who was currently pointing a gun at Raph, remembered his interaction with his father at that moment, and he looked hesitant to shoot. Suddenly, the door to the roof opened and several police officers came in, pointing their guns at Batman, who then flew away, leaving the place. At that moment, Bruce felt like a failure. He burned everything he had used, including the voice changer, the fangs filled with paralyzing liquid, and his costume. Although he had managed to eliminate the 10 thieves, another gang would take their place. Bruce began to think again and search for a bigger target for Batman. He also built tools to support Batman's actions. After that, he investigated the shipment of weapons called Orange Blossom Special, which was sent from Florida where gun and pharmaceutical laws were lax. 80% of the weapons were sent to Gotham, and the gang in Row even got all the weapons and drugs from OBS. Everything came in farm trucks because they were too heavy to be transported otherwise, and most of them used orange shipment trucks. It was even said that the weapons smelled like oranges when fired. All the weapons were brought in under the supervision of Moronis and Falcones. The family changed their checkpoints every month to avoid raids, but when they were raided, they dealt with it openly. They could do this because they weren't street criminals. Many companies and banks did business with them, so they were too big to be stopped. Once they escaped the raid, the truck sped off again, with Batman's car following behind. After that, Batman stood in the road to stop the truck, but the package carrier told his friend to ram Batman. When the truck came, Batman used a remote-controlled RC car carrying a jack to pass under the truck, and by pressing a button, the jack caused the rear of the truck to rise up and hit the roof of the tunnel, causing the truck to sway and its cargo to scatter on the road. The package carriers quickly got out of the truck and tried to run away, but Batman arrived first and beat them up. Here, Bruce finally understood the best way to handle the situation. Back to when Bruce was a child, he changed the design of his bridge by explaining that bats are easily adaptable because they use echolocation to map an area, learn it, and then survive there. In this new design, the bridge's pillars could be changed. He showed it to his father and explained that the deck could be rotated and the support beams could be extended. His father praised him, but when Bruce asked if he could win, his father could only feel unsure, believing that what mattered most was that Bruce had successfully explained the essence of the bat itself. Bruce asked again how he could be sure he had explained the essence, and his father simply replied that it could be done by trying, just like how his father had once dreamed of becoming a heart surgeon before Bruce was born. This all began when Thomas was a child, and his father or Bruce's grandfather would take him to Amusement Mile when they were off work on the G39 bus route. That day, they were also going there, but suddenly his father fell to the ground and died instantly. Bruce asked what killed him, and his father replied that it was a heart attack, which is why Thomas wanted to become a heart surgeon. However, when Thomas was about to apply to medical school, Martha became pregnant, and that changed everything. Bruce asked what that was, a guilt trip, but his father said no, he had taken time to figure out what he wanted to do, and realized that he actually enjoyed being a teacher, while his desire to become a doctor was because he didn't want other children to go through the same thing he did. His father then walked away, adding that maybe he was a doctor in another life, but in this life, he could do the essence of his life as a teacher. Bruce, who had been piling stones on the bridge, then realized that the bridge had broken under the weight. After that, his memory returned to when Bruce was in court, trying to recount what he had realized on the day of the tragedy. At that moment, he felt happy because he had won tickets to go to the zoo with his friend, and when he looked back, his father seemed proud of him. Bruce then shed tears while adding that at that moment, he realized it was the happiest moment of his life and wanted to stay in that moment. Unfortunately, Chill had ruined that moment, and Bruce didn't care why he did it because he would still hate Chill. After that, we see Bruce's memory after the attack on the Orange Blossom Special weapon package. At that time, Bruce was riding his motorcycle out of Gotham. He looked at a kindergarten, then saw people in cowboy hats dancing, after which he rode his motorcycle again and saw a place under construction. Not long after, he was in an uninhabited town, and then he was in a closed factory. After that, there were rows of servers, then protesters being guarded by the police, and a shooting range. At another time, Bruce was in a barren field where bats were flying, and he watched them. Back to the memory of when Bruce was a child discussing the Bat Bridge with his father, he stated that he should think about the people using the bridge and not just the bridge itself. They were already scared by what was happening. His father asked what Bruce meant, and Bruce explained that the Bat Bridge needed all its advantages and many other things. The bridge had to be intimidating, frightening, and more adaptable than before, with the ability to map a wider area and then occupy a new place without obstruction. Then, when his father asked what he had made, Bruce showed him the final design of the bridge, which was not only easy to fold and carry anywhere, but could also fly. They could set up the bridge without additional power, making it their own, which they could use to help protect or attack. Not only that, Bruce also added a chainsaw to the end of the bridge that could be used when in hard-to-reach places. At this point, Bruce began to wonder if this was excessive, but his father felt that excess was necessary at this time. Excitedly, Bruce added that the essence of the bat is that it can defy the impossible, because bats are the only mammals that can fly. Nothing is impossible for bats. His father then asked him what he thought, and Bruce felt that the bridge was ready. It turns out that Bruce's memory was the beginning of him creating tools for Batman. He trained at the gym to strengthen his body. Then in his workshop, he made iron armor for the upper part of his body. Bruce observed the stock market, then saw the skyscraper that would become Batman's headquarters. Afterward, Bruce tested a device called the Bat Thumb and recorded it. He bent his 3 fingers, and the long metal piece at the end bent along with his fingers. Then Bruce used the Bat Thumb as a lever to lift himself up. He looked at the Batman mask and said, "Hello there." A short time later, the annual charity dance event, Dance for a Better Gotham, began. The event gathered prominent figures in one place to sponsor a dance competition for young groups from various regions, competing for a prize. At that moment, Batman was on the dance floor, looking down to find his target, Randall Powers, the owner of the truck fleet used by the Maronis and Falcones. On the news, Randall appeared shocked by Batman's discovery about his trucks and promised to tighten the rules at his trucking company. But Batman overheard him lobbying Max Mooney to relax the transit rules in exchange for money. Batman forced himself not to go inside and continued listening to the conversation. There is an agreement between Jackson Ellis, the head of the EPA, and William Acme, one of Gotham's biggest polluters. There is also a politician who once promised an increase in employment at a factory, begging for donations from the owner of an automation company. He hears that those who are supposed to protect Gotham are not doing so, and are instead eating here. He had hidden several GSM listening devices under the dance floor, not to mention thermal coils that heated gold in an instant to make them feel hot. Suddenly, Batman was caught in the spotlight of a GCPD helicopter above him, which ordered him to lie down and put his hands behind his back. And finally, Batman jumped and flew away. At another time, Bruce was in prison to meet Chill, seen clenching his fists angrily, as he looked at Chill sitting behind the glass barrier in front of him. Bruce picked up the phone receiver in front of him and asked if there was anything Chill wanted to say to him. After little Bruce was bitten by a bat at the zoo, Martha took him to Dr. Tompkins to get a shot. After the shot, Martha asked if this was the last one, and the doctor confirmed it, even joking that Bruce was starting to grow fangs and his ears were getting pointy, and he could call her again. Bruce nodded in agreement. Fortunately, Bruce's treatment was administered just in time. Otherwise, this would have been the end for Bruce and the bat. Back to the present. After communicating with Sinus over the phone, Batman arrived at their meeting place on his motorcycle. He deliberately revved his engine on 27th Street, especially when passing by the party animals sitting there, as if to provoke them into attacking him and ruining his agreement with Sionis. On the monkey skull worn by the party animals, it was written that they were not allowed to attack Batman, even if his value reached $137,000. In fact, Batman's value kept rising, reaching $142,000. Batman continued to rev his motorcycle loudly on 39th Street, but the party animals remained silent and let him pass, especially the man whose hand had been cut off by Batman at City Hall the previous day. The motorcycle Bruce was riding had a tracker, and Pennyworth saw Batman's location, half hoping he would pass the meeting point. But he didn't. Batman stopped right in front of it and entered. Pennyworth praised Batman's decision, and from his superior's phone, Pennyworth learned that they had gotten what they wanted, so Pennyworth could leave the place. Pennyworth agreed, but he didn't go anywhere and continued to watch Batman's movements. Meanwhile, Martha is heading to Jim's office to invite him to leave with a support board for Jim. Jim apologizes and says he will explain, but Martha assures him that they haven't lost the election yet. Jim then looks at the laptop screen in front of him showing Hill's press conference and asks if Martha has seen the news, explaining that Hill has Harvey's support. Jim continues that he didn't expect this to happen and that it's quite painful. Martha then asks if Jim remembers when they first met, and Jim recalls that he caught Martha carrying a sign just like the one she is carrying now. Martha replies that Jim broke the sign, but Jim explains that it was an accident because it wasn't properly secured in the trunk. Martha continued her recollection that on the way to the police station, Martha kept attacking Jim. But when they got there, Jim let Martha go and gave her money to buy a new board. Martha explained again that sometimes they would be surprised by the badness of other people in Gotham, but there were also times when they got pleasant surprises. After that, Martha asked him to leave with her immediately. Jim then said that when he said sorry earlier, it wasn't about the election, but about the warning lights that wouldn't be turned on this year. Jim wanted Martha to pass on his apology to Bruce because that was what truly hurt him. Jim's memory then returned to Thomas's funeral. It was raining heavily, and Martha had asked Bruce to meet Jim in front of Thomas's coffin. Here, Jim knelt down so he could speak while looking at Bruce. He said that his father was a brave man, and he could see that in Thomas because his bravery shone through, just like Bruce. He then added that the zoo would be demolished. Bruce asked what would replace it, and Jim replied that maybe something useful, but that Bruce didn't need to see that place anymore. Meanwhile, the helicopter carrying Sionis began to descend onto the roof of a building where Batman was sitting on the floor waiting for his arrival. He glanced sharply at the helicopter, and Pennyworth saw all this through the binoculars in his hands. He hoped Batman would stay quiet and wait for Sionis to land. He also saw the party animals stationed at various points on the building with their weapons to protect Sionis. For Pennyworth, the party animals were probably jealous of Batman because he could make so much money, just like himself. The helicopter landed and Sionis, his wife, his child, and Dr. Benjamin stepped out. Sionis greeted Batman and said he had sent the $200 million he had promised anonymously, and the code for the account had also been sent earlier that morning. Batman nodded, saying he had already used the money for something, and upon hearing this, Sionis commented that he was extraordinary. At that moment, Bruce's memory shifted to when he was at his father's funeral. After Jim, aka Gordon, finished talking to him, Bruce chased after him to say something. Meanwhile, Sionis asked what the money was used for, whether it was to buy a car, a plane, or a bat computer. Sionis also asked how much he had used because he had a right to know. Batman replied that he had used all the money. In Bruce's memory, when the funeral ended, Gordon asked him what he wanted to say, and Bruce explained that they didn't need to tear down the zoo or turn it into something useful, but he wanted something there that would make people look at it, like Gordon said earlier, something that shines. Meanwhile, on top of the building, Batman showed where he had used all the money. He stood up and pressed a button, and the warning lights at Gotham Zoo lit up with a bat symbol in the middle, which was made from the $200 million he had obtained from Sionis. Seeing the sign, Sionis comments that it's an ugly bat, unaware that it was made with money. Then a TV broadcast announces that there's a giant bat symbol made of money on the warning lights at Gotham Zoo. Realizing what Batman had done, Sionis immediately shouted at the party animals, declaring that their deal was off, and the party animals immediately ran to attack Batman. Batman told Sionis that he didn't need a car, a plane, or a computer. All he needed was a bat. After that, Batman used the tip of his cape to attack the party animals. He strikes the purple-clad party animal with the sharp metal tip of his cape, then thrusts the sharp metal tip into the man's leg and pulls it back. The man screams in pain while Batman catches the metal tip in his hand. After that, Batman strikes another man who comes to attack, kicks him, then strikes him again until he is thrown far away. Another man in black came and he tripped him. Then he hit the man in green who was attacking him. But the man whose hand he had cut off yesterday jumped to ambush him from behind. Batman then pulled out the spikes on his back, causing the man to stick to Batman's back while he kicked the other party animals coming toward him. Batman continued punching the others attacking him, while the man clinging to his back asked his friends for help to get him down. Finally, he begged Batman to let him go, and Batman reinserted the spikes into his back, causing the man to fall. Batman then tells Sionis that all the crimes committed by the party animals are Sionis' responsibility because he and his boss only care about profit, regardless of how many people die. Batman then grabs the man by the neck with one wrist and throws him in front of Sionis. Sionis admitted that he didn't care, but he knew Batman did. After that, Sionis ordered his men to shoot, causing the party animals on the building around them to fire at the party animals surrounding Batman. Finally, Batman tells the party animals to duck, while Sionis orders them to net Batman, and 3 people shoot nets from above, successfully trapping Batman. Sionis says Batman almost made it to their party. At that moment, Batman grabs Sionis' pants, but Sionis pulls Batman's hand off his pants and breaks it, asking what Batman has now. Batman replied that he had what he wanted because everything Sionis had admitted earlier had been broadcast on Gotham's news station. It turned out there was a small camera attached to Batman's mask recording everything. But Sionis didn't seem afraid. He asked Batman what he thought he had achieved here. At that moment, the money on the warning light started to burn, while Sionis' wife pulled one of the ears on Batman's mask, which had a knife at the end. Sionis' wife confirmed that Batman seemed to think he was a hero, and Sionis agreed. The woman then stabbed Batman repeatedly with the knife in her hand until Batman could be seen enduring the pain from Sionis' wife's stabs. Sionis added that Batman wasn't the main character here, then called his child who was holding a weapon and sprayed fire to burn Batman. Sionis added that the main character here was the money. After that, Dr. Benjamin took Batman's staff, which could be transformed into an axe, and used it to strike Batman until he fell from the roof of the building, while Sionis emphasized that he would prove it to Batman now. Meanwhile, Batman's cape formed a parachute to soften his fall, but unfortunately, the cape was already torn, so Batman still fell hard onto the roof of a car. As Batman was about to stand up, a police helicopter approached him. A bald police officer in the helicopter reported that he saw Batman on 29th Street and 3rd Avenue, then ordered all units to come here. The police cars rushed to Batman's location, while the bald police officer fires at Batman with a machine gun from the helicopter. After finishing firing, the officer reports that he has wounded Batman, but Batman has escaped. Barbara, who is driving a police car, responds that she is already at the scene, just as Batman appears in front of her, causing Barbara to crash into him. When Barbara got out of the car and pointed her gun at him, Batman was entering a waterhole. Barbara told him not to move or she would shoot him, but Bruce, who was no longer wearing his mask, told her to just shoot. Unexpectedly, Barbara lowered her gun while Bruce finally entered the water channel and closed it again. The police radio on Barbara's shoulder asked if Barbara, aka Gordon, saw Batman, but she replied that she didn't, even though Batman's mask was right in front of her. At the same time, the news broadcast was interrupted by a broadcast from Black Mask aka Sionis, who introduced himself as Roman to the citizens of Gotham and told them that he grew up on a pig farm. His job was to kill pigs for slaughter using a bolt gun, where a 5-inch needle would pierce their brains. However, sometimes he found pigs that trembled with joy even as blood gushed from their heads. Martha and Jim also saw Roman's broadcast on TV. Roman continued explaining that the situation would occur if the needle hit the pleasure center in the brain, which happens when pigs are killed in a relaxed state and accept their death. At his office, Jim heard something and peeked through the window, seeing the party animals unloading boxes from a van onto the street. Meanwhile, Roman continued his explanation that the world had been dead for a long time, and people could no longer afford their basic needs. There was no point in fighting to uphold the rules, while the powerful committed crimes and grew rich. Pennyworth was seen driving his car past the party animals who were unloading the boxes on the street. At this moment, Bruce was transfusing blood while sewing up his wounds alone. He told Pennyworth, behind him, not to just watch and to fix his broken arm, but Pennyworth asked what he had done. Batman replied that he had placed a tracker on Roman's mask when he met him earlier, but Pennyworth only felt that what Bruce had done was wrong and he would leave Bruce. At Martha's location, Jim and Martha finally exit the office to approach the coffin on the street. Jim tells Martha to stay back while he opens the coffin. Martha asks what's happening, but Jim just tells her to step back. Jim then finds a mask with a weapon inside the coffin. Roman's voice can still be heard saying that they should abandon their idealism and dead history, then relax and accept the needle pricks that will give them pleasure. And since Batman has rejected Roman's offer, he now offers it to them to become part of the party animal and get hundreds of millions from him. It turned out that beside Martha and Jim, the people who had also opened the chest were wearing deer masks and raising weapons, watching the two of them while moving forward. On a TV news program, a report was aired about Roman Sionis leaving the box on the streets of Gotham City containing masks and weapons to encourage residents to join the violent party animals. Everyone who saw the news was advised to stay home and lock their doors. Meanwhile, Waylon, who was watching TV with a baseball bat, suddenly heard someone opening the gym door. Thinking it was the party animals, he immediately scared them away by saying that he was an AFC champion, but it turned out to be Bruce. Waylon saw the wounds on Bruce's face and hugged him, asking him what was wrong. But then spikes came out from under Bruce's jacket, which was covering his costume. Waylon looked confused by this, and Bruce explained that he was Batman and that he needed Waylon's help. Bruce's memory flashes back to his childhood, where he and his 5 friends from Crime Alley were sleeping together in his house. Bruce's mother, Martha, intended to turn off the lights and asked what they needed. Then Harvey replied that Eddie at the end needed to move so he could have enough space. But Eddie refused. He said he needed space for his big dream, and that Harvey could have enough room to sleep on the sofa if Selina and Bruce would sleep in one sleeping bag. Selina told Eddie to shut up, but Eddie replied that they all knew the two of them liked each other. Then Martha turned off the lights. In the darkness, a man pointed a gun at them, and Bruce, seeing this, immediately called out to his mother. Instead of moving away, Martha tried to protect Bruce and the children, and she was shot. It turns out that it was little Bruce's nightmare. He woke up screaming, ran to his mother, and without asking, she called him and put him to sleep on her lap. At this moment, on the street in front of Jim's office, Martha took a mask from a box and asked what it was. At that moment, many people were taking masks and weapons from other boxes. Suddenly, someone with a gun approached them, wanting to take a mask from the box in front of them. Martha, who was looking through the mask, realized there was a price list for each crime committed by the party animals. Even when Martha moved the mask toward Gordon, Gordon's value on the mask was $1 million. Gordon tried to tell the man to leave by pointing his weapon at him, but the man refused because the masks from the other boxes had already been taken by others. Gordon tried to threaten the man while telling Martha to leave, but Martha was still struggling with the mask. Finally, Gordon cursed, and Martha said that Gordon was their target and she was his representative, so she wouldn't go anywhere. On a moving train, Julia receives a call from her friend Ree, who asks when she will arrive. Julia says there are still 6 stations left, but she is fine. Suddenly, an emergency message appears on her phone instructing Gotham residents to stay indoors until further notice. Finally, Julia realized that party animals were checking the train carriages, and Julia rushed out of her carriage while telling her friend to stay home. But at that moment, Julia's shadow was seen being pulled back, causing her belongings to fall. Meanwhile, Batman was in a helicopter piloted by Ozzy. Ozzy was angry because Bruce hadn't told him he was Batman all along, but Batman explained that he was trying to protect everyone. However, Ozzy argued that when everyone found out Waylon wanted to hit him, Harvey intended to arrest him, and Eddie might have figured it out weeks ago, while Selina probably thought it was cool. Ozzy wants to give his opinion on this, but Batman points to the yacht below as his target. He says that according to the Riddler, Eddie's local Black Mask server can be shut down, and maybe he can find one there and blow it up. Ozzy is shocked by Batman's decision to blow up the yacht, because there might not even be enough fuel to get back, so he can't wait for Batman here. But Batman says he doesn't expect to be saved by Ozzy or anyone else. Batman then jumps out of the helicopter and lands right on top of Dr. Benjamin, who happens to be playing music on the deck of the ship. Batman sees a box labeled life jackets, takes a few, puts one around Dr. Benjamin's neck, and kicks him into the sea without giving him time to speak. Sionis' kid immediately charged at him with a knife, but Batman pulled the hair upward so the knife couldn't reach him. While putting the life jacket on the child, he said he was just a child, but Batman didn't care, and instead threw him off the deck, kicking him hard until he fell into the sea. Just then, Sionis' wife went outside looking for her kid and saw Batman there. She immediately turned around and jumped into the sea herself, and Batman then threw a life jacket near her. Back to little Bruce's memory after his nightmare. He asked his mother what she was doing, and Martha replied that she was arranging photos. She then showed him a photo of Martha and Thomas before Bruce was born. Bruce commented that his father's hair was longer than his mother's, and Martha replied that at the time, his father was in a band called The Movements. Bruce thought they were very funny, and Martha agreed. Martha then showed a photo of Bruce learning to walk, but she stopped when she saw a photo of Bruce with his friends and really liked it. Bruce reminded her that the photo was taken when they went to the zoo, and his father took the photo before the shooting happened. At this moment, Martha, who was surrounded by residents who wanted to take the masks from the box under her feet, said that she and Gordon would not give them the masks. Gordon pointed his gun at them and told them to back off. One of the men blamed Gordon for causing all this, saying that they only wanted a little. Martha tried to remind them that Batman's post explained that Black Mask was doing all this to take advantage of them, and that they could win by not playing along. A man in gray, who was already wearing a mask, pointed a gun at the man who blamed Gordon, saying that he was too slow to join the game. One of the brown-clad party animals told them to check the values of the three people in front of them. The man in gray replied that the man who blamed Gordon was not worth much, but behind him were Gordon and the deputy mayor. Inside their masks, they found that Gordon and Martha were worth $1 million each. On the other hand, a private plane was about to take off, but Julia, who was inside, prevented the plane from leaving. It turned out that Pennyworth was the one who saved Julia. Julia tells her father that she has a life here and wants to be with her loved ones when they are in pain. However, Pennyworth insists on taking Julia away now and will return her to Gotham in a few weeks, because he has seen other places that have been turned into Black Mask like this, and he cannot let Julia stay here. Julia seemed skeptical of Pennyworth's words, because when she was little, she had prepared a suitcase to take with her when her father returned from his adventure and took her away. But because of her disappointment as a child, she now didn't even want to be on the same plane as him, so if the plane took off, Julia would consider him no longer her father. At that moment, the pilot reported that they had received permission to take off, while Pennyworth remained silent, but eventually he ordered them to proceed with takeoff. On the Sionis yacht, Sionis jumps from the upper deck and attacks Batman, but Batman swiftly kicks Sionis in the stomach. Sionis tries to explain to Batman that he can't stop all of this, but before he can finish, Batman charges at him with his head, causing Sionis' body to break through the ship's wall. The other side of the wall turned out to be a bowling alley, and Batman used a bowling ball to hit Sionis' head left and right, then hit him from above until Sionis' body once again broke through the lower deck and entered the room where Sionis kept the heads of his victims. Batman told Sionis to say how useless Batman was, then used his fists to beat Sionis emotionally. Sionis took this opportunity to grab a rope and strangle Batman. In the midst of his pain, Batman remembered that his mother had assured him that she knew this photo was taken at the zoo, and that was why she liked it. She knew that it wasn't easy to keep hope alive in difficult times. His mother had told him that even though his father had gone through difficult times, he was always hopeful, and he had always felt hopeful about everything concerning Bruce. Remembering his mother's words, Bruce didn't give up even though his neck was covered in blood. He turned the ears on his bat mask to face forward and stabbed Sionis in both eyes. Bruce then put a life jacket around Sionis' neck, pulled him to the edge of the ship, and threw him into the sea. Meanwhile, the party animals, who were with Gordon and Martha, were increasingly tempted by the $1 million each of them possessed. But because they couldn't bring themselves to kill a woman, one of them suggested killing Gordon and dividing the money among themselves. On Sionis' ship, Batman had arrived in the server room. He remembered telling his mother that he always had nightmares about her dying. At Martha's location, she told the party animals that she had seen their faces before they put on their masks and would make sure they got their revenge. So she told them not to kill Gordon, but to kill her first. In the server room, Batman removes his belt containing a grenade and pulls the pin while remembering his mother's words that they would all die. At Martha's location, one of the party animals has cocked his gun and is ready to shoot Martha while apologizing to Mrs. Wayne, aka Martha. But at the same time, the grenade explodes Sionis' yacht. At that moment, the party animals' masks that were about to shoot Martha suddenly reveal Martha's identity. So they take off their masks, and Martha finally hits the man who was about to shoot her and hugs Jim. Bruce's memory returns to his mother's words, saying that Bruce will also die, but not for long. After that, Martha decided to remove the photo from the album, but Bruce stopped her. At that moment, Martha said that she was proud of the way Bruce dealt with pain. Whether it was the way he dealt with the shooting while with his friends or when talking to Jim, because the way to deal with nightmares is to try not to let them happen again. Currently, after the grenade exploded, Bruce fell into the sea and drowned until he fell onto a bat submarine. Then the submarine rose to the surface and the hatch opened, revealing Pennyworth pulling Batman into the submarine. Inside, Pennyworth tried to treat Batman's wounds. In another place, the Joker is seen sitting with a small child in front of him, with red veins on his body, indicating blood flowing into his body and his dry, withered hands. At that moment, one of his assistants says that Sionis has reported a problem in Gotham City, and the Joker replies that he already knows about it. Slowly, the Joker's dry hands begin to fill with flesh, while the child in front of him appears to be in pain. The Joker simply says that it is now time and orders his assistant to call Bane. Previously in Tanzania. In a forest leading to a glacier, several cars were driving in a convoy. In one of the cars were young Victor and his father. Victor's father said they were close to the glacier they were heading for, but Victor wanted to stay in the forest a little longer. His father assures him that there will be even more animals at the glacier, so many that Victor won't believe his eyes. Just then, the corners of Victor's eyes suddenly turn red, and his father, getting no response from Victor, calls out his name, asking if he's okay. Now, in Gotham City. Waylon, Eddie, Harvey, and Ozzy were walking through a small alley as snow fell. They approached the candles and flowers set out for Mitchell Matches Malone, their friend who had just passed away. Waylon told Ozzy to speak first to express his grief since he knew Matches best, but Ozzy simply said briefly that Matches was crazy, and told Harvey to speak instead since he was the one who worked with words. Finally, Harvey agreed. Harvey took out the matches, lit one, and tossed it into the matchbox while saying that when they thought of matches, they remembered a game. They'd open a matchbox on the sidewalk, and whoever could hit it with a match got to pick one person to do a dare they shouldn't do, like stealing a bullet, using a fake ID, or setting off an M80. And Matches always won in the matches game, but strangely, he chose himself to perform the challenge. Ozzy also lit a match, saying that Harvey talks too much in circles and shows off. Waylon asked if anyone knew how Matches had been doing lately. Eddie replied that he'd heard Matches was doing better after getting out of Blackgate. Then Ozzy handed a box of matches to Eddie, saying he was always in good shape until things eventually went south. Eddie lit a match too, until Waylon asked who had last seen Matches, and Bruce stepped forward to say he was the last one to see him. In the darkness, Bruce held a box of matches and reiterated that he was the one who had last seen Matches. A week ago. In the Batman Combat Journal on April 19th, Bruce wrote that Gotham City seems strange and increasingly unfamiliar. After the Black Mask incident, the city was under martial law to protect people's safety from threats, including from Batman. Mayor Hill had imposed a 10 p.m. curfew, and there were police on every street corner wearing new uniforms and equipment. Even the weather felt ominous, as if a storm were approaching. Pennyworth contacted him and told Bruce to hide for now since he was still working, but Bruce had no job. Lucius said all construction projects had been halted. Bruce then looked toward the construction site off the coast of Gotham. He sensed that something big was about to happen, and he couldn't stop thinking about the Arc M, The team building that facility is from JK, and Bruce intends to join them. That's why he's now at Elliott Bridge at 5 a.m. to meet Matches Malone. Since the last time they heard from Matches, he was running LD, a high-tech forgery operation using barcodes and laser engraving. Bruce hopes he can forge the documents he needs to join the Arc-M crew. When Bruce contacted Matches 2 weeks ago, he said he'd handle it, but after that, there was no further word. Until this morning, when he sought out Bruce for something urgent. Matches appeared, walking from the other side of the bridge, and asked if he was indeed Bruce, and just as Bruce was about to extend his hand, Matches quickly grabbed Bruce's hand and urged him to walk with him. Matches explained that someone was following him, but since there were so many police officers around, Bruce hadn't brought any of his equipment at all. If anything happened, he only had a cast on his hand. Pennyworth insisted that it was necessary for his treatment, but Bruce had already removed it. Matches pulled Bruce's hand as he looked around, and Bruce asked if he was okay. Matches replied that he was fine, and explained that Bruce's paperwork was already done. In fact, even better than that, he'd been working there for the past week. Bruce seemed to regret Matches' actions, but he said it wasn't a problem. Then he changed his mind, saying that the place wasn't all right. Matches looked around again while pulling out a cell phone. He said he'd been to prison before, but never anything like this. Arc-M felt like it was on a whole different level. Plus, the place had already started operations. He'd have to come back tomorrow to get more information. But this was for Bruce. Hoped Bruce wouldn't be angry. But Bruce said he wasn't angry and just thought he should be the one going in there. Matches said he was doing this because he wanted to, and honestly, he owed Bruce a favor. But just as he was about to explain why he owed Bruce, blood began pouring from every pore in Matches' body until he collapsed and died. Sensing someone approaching, Bruce used his cast, which concealed a weapon, to point it at the person coming toward him, but it turned out to be just someone exercising. The phone Matches had been about to give Bruce lit up green, and after that, Bruce ran away from the scene. Hearing Bruce's story, Harvey tried to deny it because the police report didn't match, but Bruce insisted they were wrong. Whoever did this used a biological weapon, and there's a clue in the phone Matches left behind. His visit was just to say this, but Waylon and Harvey didn't want to just hear about it. Eddie added that they thought Bruce was dead, especially since the last news they'd heard about him was from Ozzy. Ozzy also noted that at the time, Bruce had jumped from his plane like Nosferatu. Bruce said he just didn't want them to worry, but as Bruce was about to leave, Waylon stopped him. He wanted them to talk about Batman now. In the Batman Combat Journal, Batman wrote on April 29th that Matches' phone didn't reveal much about Arc-M, but what was visible there was bad. A 4-second video showed hundreds of windowless titanium cells there, and in the background, he could hear people crying, pleading, and screaming. At the end of the video was a list of names, whether found or written by Matches himself. But the list contained names like Langstrom, Isley, Strange, and Fries, all of whom were researchers and doctors from around the world. The only one connected to Gotham is Dr. Victor Fries, a pioneer in cryotech, and he owns a company called V-Core, one of whose facilities is located in the heart of Gotham City. Strangely, the power there is strong enough to supply electricity to 10 city blocks, so he felt he had to go inside. But due to the curfew, Bruce moved when the storm hit because the police airship wouldn't be able to spot him then. So Batman flew using his Batwings, but the weather forecast reported the storm wouldn't let up. Yet, just as the storm began, it suddenly stopped, and Batman was spotted. The police on patrol in the airship spotted Batman and deployed drone units, so Batman decided to freefall while being showered with gunfire from the police airship. That's when a call from Pennyworth came in from London. Batman was seen free-falling while maneuvering to dodge the airship's gunfire. Then he answered Pennyworth's call and extended part of his cape like a rope. The drones that had been firing at Batman turned around and resumed firing at him, while Pennyworth asked if Bruce was resting his arm. Batman used his casted hand to fire back at the drones while acknowledging Pennyworth's question and asking about the information he had received. Pennyworth asks what the noise is, and Batman replies that it's a radio and asks Pennyworth for the information again. Pennyworth replies that regarding the information Batman had previously requested, it turns out it wasn't a biological weapon but a bacterium. However, there is no data on that bacterium, not even at the WHO. Batman's shot hit all 3 drones, causing them to explode. At that moment, Batman used the cape he'd been holding to hang beneath the bridge. He asked where it came from, but Pennyworth didn't know either, and said they'd discuss it later once he returned. He told Batman to turn off the radio before it deafened him, and that he needed to take care of himself. Batman was hanging beneath the bridge, and when 2 police officers approached him, he used the metal part of his cape to lift one officer and slam him into the other. After that, Batman clung to a building using his cape. Pennyworth began to grow suspicious because Batman didn't have a radio, but Batman simply hung up the phone. By then he was already back on the street, and in front of him was the V-Corps company he was heading toward. Back to Bruce's earlier meeting with his friends. Bruce says he doesn't want them involved, but his friends refuse to be left behind since they've been part of his training to become Batman all along. However, Bruce replies that he doesn't want them to end up like Matches. Wayland says he knows why Matches turned out this way, but Ozzy calls out Wayland's name to stop him from speaking. Harvey agreed with Wayland's decision to lay everything out, but Bruce insisted they step aside because he wanted to get back to work. At that moment, Bruce was entering a room on the upper floor of V-Corps that was drawing a massive amount of power. He left his costume in the air duct and entered disguised as a maintenance worker inspecting the area. Bruce saw several frozen prehistoric animals visible through the glass windows there. Suddenly, someone explained that all the animals were real: a mammoth from the Yukon, a tiger from Siberia, and a beetle from Chile. The man explained that the challenge was moving them since the ice was unstable. Bruce then handed over his ID and said he wanted to check the power supply. When asked his name, Bruce claimed his name was Pennyworth. The man offered to give him a tour because Dr. Freeze and his wife loved collecting wild animals. Bruce asked if Victor and Nora Freeze were still overseeing this place, and the man pressed a button while nodding. The button opened a panel behind him, revealing Victor and Nora frozen just like the animals, and the man then admitted he was their son, and his name was Victor Jr. He said this was their request because of their love for ice and their mission here. Bruce asked what that mission was since there was no explanation of what V-Corps does. Victor Jr. replied that his parents always believed ice existed to preserve something until the world was ready for it. They funded V-Corps for terminally ill people who wanted to be preserved in ice until a cure for their disease was found, including his own parents. Bruce asked if anyone had ever come back from the dead, and Victor Jr. said he had experienced it. He recounted that as a child he had a fatal disease with no known cure, but they were certain a cure would eventually be found, so they froze him. In the past, Wayland told Bruce, who was about to leave, that if he went, he would die. At this moment, Bruce tries to distract Victor Jr. by keeping him engaged in conversation and looking for something that might help him. He responds that the ice has indeed helped him. Victor Jr. confirms this, saying that his parents once told him it wouldn't hurt, and the world would be a better place when he woke up. But the ice wasn't what they expected. As he speaks, Victor Jr.'s hands turn blue. Unaware of this, Bruce tries to find clues about Matches' death and discovers an article about ancient bacteria preserved in the ice. Meanwhile, Victor Jr. keeps saying that he's in pain inside the ice and can feel everything. At that moment, his eyes begin to turn red with green pupils. Bruce remembers Wayland telling him earlier that Bruce was already dead at that time. Back in the present, Bruce realized that Matches' death was caused by Victor Jr. carrying the bacteria in the ice. According to Victor behind him, the ice gave birth to monsters like himself. It was clear that Victor Jr. had turned blue with red eyes and green pupils. He reached out to touch Bruce's face, and instantly, Bruce's face became infected and turned blue as well. After confronting Victor, Bruce lost consciousness, his veins turning blue due to a bacterial infection he'd contracted from Victor. As Victor dragged Bruce by the leg to move him, Bruce recalled the time he met his friend from Crime Alley to commemorate Matches' death. At that time, Wayland had told Bruce not to run away because there was no way out of all this. In reality, Victor dragged Bruce's leg into a room with a standing tank. He then took a knife and approached Bruce, who introduced himself as Pennyworth to Victor. But as he brought the knife close to Bruce's body, Bruce grabbed Victor's neck and choked him. However, Victor grabbed Bruce's hand, which immediately caused the veins in his hand to turn blue, and he lost consciousness. A few moments later, Bruce regained consciousness. One of his eyes was blue, while the other remained black. When he opened his eyes, he realized he was strapped inside the standing tank he'd seen earlier, wearing only his underwear. Victor, standing outside the tank, was pleased that Bruce had woken up because he wouldn't be able to sleep after being exposed to the ice. The pain would keep him awake. Bruce began looking around, noticing many others trapped in their tanks unconscious. Victor explained that they were prominent Gotham families like the Gates, who had hoped the ice would offer an escape as they lay dying. But unfortunately, the ice was not an escape but a form of retribution. The top of Bruce's tank opened, Victor pulled a lever, and cold water gushed into the tank, dousing Bruce. After that, Victor left while explaining that as the temperature dropped, Bruce would experience hypothermia, disrupting the thermoregulation in his brain. That's why people who die in a frozen state strip off all their clothes, but eventually it would pass. At least for the next 30 years, he would just wish to die. Or like Victor, Bruce would begin to accept the pain, or even come to enjoy it. At that moment, Bruce's memory flashes back to the night he met his friends. He brushed Waylon's hand off his shoulder and told Waylon not to make him hit him. But Waylon insisted that if Bruce left, his fate would be the same as Match's. Bruce asked what he meant, and Waylon turned his face away, saying it meant Bruce was a coward, just like Batman. Hearing this, Bruce immediately rammed his shoulder into Waylon's back. At the same time Bruce endured the pain, his eyes began to turn red, every cell in his body screamed there was only pain. He recalled a fleeting image of his old hideout atop a skyscraper, the bat at the zoo, the gunman who killed his father, himself as a grieving child, and a skull symbolizing the pain he was experiencing. Back to his memories. As a result of Bruce's headbutt, Waylon spat blood from his mouth. Then Bruce readied his fist and asked if he was still a coward now. But Waylon still felt the same way. He explained that Ozzy had told them how Bruce had attacked Black Mask back then, jumping from the helicopter with no escape plan. Bruce swung his fist at Waylon, who ducked to avoid it. He asked, "So why?" Waylon then punched Bruce in the chin and stomach, then kicked him until he fell face first into the snow, answering that it was a suicide mission. And so was this one. At that moment, the tank where Bruce was submerged began to fill up to his knees. The temperature started dropping, and he was running out of time. Bruce recalled Waylon's words. Just like Bruce, Matches always took on every challenge because he blamed himself for being the last person left outside at the time. Bruce's father, seeing Matches fall, returned to help him and brought him into the bat room. Though they all knew why Bruce's father was out there, Matches blamed himself and let that guilt consume him until nothing was left of him. Remembering all that, Bruce reached for the cast on his arm. He gripped it, and a compartment containing 3 bat weapons opened, while the water continued to rise toward his chest. Finally, he released one bat weapon that was embedded in the tank wall. The water rose back up to his chin, and once again, Bruce released the next Batwing, until only one remained. He remembered Waylon, who after kicking him had reached out his hand to help him up, and Bruce had taken it. At that moment, in the present, Bruce released the third Batwing, which widened the crack in the tank he was in. Meanwhile, Victor was in the control room, surrounded by numerous screens. Someone's voice asked how things were going, and Victor replied that he was using bacteria that had died hundreds of thousands of years ago, untraceable, and that, regarding the snowfall, there were markers within the crystals. He typed on his laptop, and molecular structures appeared on the screen. According to Victor, the skin of anyone touched by that snowfall could be read by the person whose voice he heard. The voice replied that they were uploading data, but when he saw the data, 92% of the population, which turned out to be coherent genetic profiles, he congratulated Victor. Afterward, the person asked if anything was causing him trouble regarding Malone. Victor answered that Malone was a nobody, and he was certain no one would come for him. Suddenly, a door was kicked open and Batman appeared. Smiling, Victor asked what Batman was doing there. Batman then showed a device on his wrist and replied that he'd heard Victor liked pain. Batman activated the device, which emitted flames. He then pulled his hand back to prepare for an attack, aiming it close to Victor's face to burn him. However, due to hypothermia, Batman's movements had slowed, and he struggled to make Victor move as slowly as he was. Moreover, with his strength derived from ice fused with his muscle tissue, the fire he used to burn Victor's face earlier caused Victor to turn away, while Batman ducked to hide the trembling of his body due to his condition. Once the fire on Victor's face had died down, Batman attacked Victor again with the tentacles that were part of his cape, but Victor dodged the attack and climbed up to the ceiling. Unexpectedly, from the roof, Victor's hand reached out and grabbed Batman's chin, then flung him against the wall. Batman felt his ribs snap. In that moment, Batman recalled Wayland extending his hand. He said they weren't finished yet. And then Wayland helped Bruce to his feet. Back to the present. Batman boldly asked what it was that Victor had. At that moment, Victor was seen walking along the wall. He approached the computer and said that Batman seemed to enjoy pain, and that Victor had a friend just like him. Victor pressed a button on the computer, causing the humans behind Bruce's shattered tank to open their red eyes. Meanwhile, Batman's memory flashes back to when Bruce met his friends. Wayland asked if Bruce wanted to die, but Bruce was confused by Wayland's meaning. Wayland asked again if Bruce wanted to die. Was Batman to him the same as when they were at the zoo, when Bruce had just stood silently by the door? In the present, the tanks opened, and from the entrance behind Bruce came the sound of rapid movement as the emaciated humans emerged from the tanks and attacked Batman. Batman punched one of them, but the man's jaw snapped off from the impact. Nevertheless, more humans kept coming, swarming Batman relentlessly. The memory returned, and Wayland said that what made Bruce's father a hero wasn't his death, but his life. That's what made him a hero. Wayland lit a match, then tossed it into a pile of other matches, causing the area to flare up and revealing the faces of his friends clearly, as well as the graffiti of Matches' face on the wall. Wayland continued that the people of Crime Alley were those who managed to survive, and Ozzy could be heard agreeing with that statement. So, according to Wayland, Batman must also become someone who can survive just like them. So when Wayland asked again if Bruce wanted to die, Bruce answered no, and Wayland told him to keep living. With that memory, Batman is now fighting. Surrounded by the tank people, he looks at Victor, who keeps reminding Batman that he's there, but Batman takes a different path. He breaks free from the crowd of tank people and runs toward the hole in the wall where he fell earlier. He jumps out, and the tentacles of his cape grab the outer wall of the building to minimize his fall to the ground. On his way down, he calls Wayland's number, telling him about something in the snow and asking him to contact their other friends. Batman doesn't forget to acknowledge that Wayland was right and thanks him for it. Meanwhile, Wayland, who had just finished grocery shopping, was on his way back to his fitness center. He took out his keys and unlocked the door, but two men in neat suits approached him and asked if he was Wayland Jones. Wayland was about to ask how he could help when someone behind him covered his mouth with a cloth, knocking him unconscious. One of the neatly dressed men injects him, then looks at Wayland's body data, which shows that he is a perfect specimen. The man orders his men to take Wayland to Arc M, leaving Wayland's groceries scattered on the ground with his blood splattered near the shopping bags. In the neutral zone of Alagab, Bialya, in a hotel room heavily guarded by armed troops, Omar and the mustached man are discussing a peace agreement. The mustached man recounts his experience of losing his grandfather in Shuruta and his father in Aldohas due to the war, while Omar responds that he too lost his son a month ago in Abul, and that is why he is offering peace to the mustached man. The mustached man expressed his condolences for the tragedy, while Omar replied that this was the time for them to say enough. The mustached man agreed. He stood up to shake Omar's hand, saying that they would announce tomorrow that Kandak and Kurak were no longer enemies, but allies, and that they would take control of the oil refinery. Omar replied that his country's share was the silica mine and they would heal their nations together. They walked toward the door, while the mustached man said that peace was Omar's legacy. But Omar corrected him, saying that peace was their shared legacy, and from now on, the 100-year war would end. But just as he was about to open the door, the mustached man's shoe touched blood flowing from behind the door, and Omar was puzzled as to how blood could have spilled there. Suddenly, the door was opened from the outside, and Bane entered. Bane said he was pleased to hear talk of peace, which is why he was deeply saddened when one of the two sides betrayed the other and killed them, thereby causing the two nations to go to war again. Looking at both of them, Bane asked which side had betrayed the other, and the mustached man replied that Bane couldn't threaten them, especially since Omar had just lost his son. But then Omar's voice rang out, declaring that it was his side that had done it. The mustached man was utterly shocked by Omar's words, but Bane immediately lifted the mustached man's head with one hand. The man continued to beg Omar not to do it, but Omar ignored him, and with just that one hand, Bane crushed the mustached man's skull. After that, Bane grabbed Omar by the neck and ordered him to declare an escalation of the attack today. Bane added that his superiors understood that Omar's people would find this hard to accept, but they had complete faith in Omar's ability to lead his country. Bane then lowered Omar, adding that as students of history, they both knew there were no guarantees in peace treaties. Even his favorite words came from the ancient king, Sargon, the Akkadian king of the 23rd century BCE. He said, "Peace is the pretty pictures we draw over the ever-warring stars." Suddenly, Bane's phone vibrated. He grabbed it and instructed Omar to use those words in his speech today. Bane answered the call, and as he listened to the conversation on the other end, he replied that he would be coming to Gotham. Meanwhile, Batman was cleaning up the mess by beating up members of the criminal underworld while Pennyworth had just returned from SIS Vauxhall. Pennyworth learned that Batman's friend Waylon Jones had been missing for 2 weeks, and as a result, Waylon's Crocs Fitness Center was cordoned off with police tape. After finishing beating up the criminals, an ambulance arrived to take them to Gotham General Hospital. At that moment, Pennyworth wanted to tell Batman to stop, but he knew better than that and chose to remain silent. But then Batman was seen kicking a man in a black suit who was holding a gun and beating him. He had incapacitated everyone remaining from the Maroni and Falcone families. Even the hospital was running out of ambulances, yet many victims still lay on the streets. Medical staff were rushing through the hospital corridors to push the stretchers of patients injured by Batman. They began using ride-sharing cars to transport victims to the hospital, and those victims were then rushed through the hospital corridors, which were still packed with patients. Batman continued to beat up the members of the criminal organization until even the ride-sharing services could no longer meet the demand for transporting patients. There were even stories circulating that an EMT had taken a patient to the hospital by rickshaw. He was seen carrying the patient while cursing Batman, and upon closer inspection, the man's ID card revealed his name to be Grayson D. Meanwhile, Barbara Gordon, who was on the phone with her father while preparing food at the police station, mentioned that Harvey had claimed the expansion of the police force was merely a temporary measure, but suddenly she said she had to hang up because she wanted to eat. As soon as the call ended, she glanced behind her and heard someone calling Officer Gordon's name. She grabbed her gun, pressed it against the wall, and peered toward the source of the voice, which was coming from her office. She entered the room, raised her gun, and ordered whoever was there to get down on the ground, but the room was empty. There was only a Batman mask-shaped communication device that said it needed help. That same night, Barbara Gordon went to the Gotham Zoo. She got out of the car carrying a file and called out Batman's name, but no one was in sight. Suddenly, Batman appeared on the roof of her car. He asked where Waylon was, but she refused to hand over the file just like that. She was curious why Batman was asking for her help. Batman replied that he'd seen her work and knew she was a good cop. Batman asked again where they had taken Waylon, and Barbara then handed over the file and replied that it seemed they were the ones who had taken Waylon. Meanwhile, Batman stood silent, looking at Barbara as she held the file he had just received from her. After that, Batman met with the Crime Alley crew at Crocs Fitness Center along with Pennyworth. He had already told them where the police had taken Way. Ozzy was shocked and asked why they took him to Arc M, and Bruce replied that the file stated he had violated the lockdown, but Bruce thought this didn't make sense. Harvey added that Waylon's property had even been seized by the Gotham City government. Eddie asked why they were doing this, and Pennyworth continued that it was likely because Waylon would never return. And Ozzy then asked Bruce who this man was. Bruce explained that he was here to help. Bruce then asked Pennyworth for an explanation, and Pennyworth explained that there were 12 other arcs scattered around the world. Functionally, they were black sites, but there were rumors that something horrific was happening inside them. Bruce added that Freeze had mentioned the snowstorm that had occurred to prepare their city, and that if they were marking people somehow, Wade definitely had to get out of there. Ozzy was baffled at how this could have happened so quickly, considering the foundation for Arc-M had only been laid a few months ago. Bruce replied that wasn't the case, and asked Harvey for his opinion. Harvey opened his briefcase filled with files, stating that this had been going on for a very long time. In the 1800s, there was a hospital there, and when the place burned down in the 1930s, JK Industries purchased the land. Bruce unfolds a map and explains that according to personal records, after acquiring the site, they built the Ark using the pipes and ventilation systems from the former hospital. Harvey asks what that means, and Bruce says it means he can get inside. He just needs a program from Eddie that can fool the security cameras, unlock the doors, and bypass the alarms. Eddie agrees to help. Bruce emphasized that after getting Way out, he wanted Way to stay safe, and Harvey replied that he could apply for witness protection for him and place him in Metropolis. This made Ozzy angry. He said, why didn't they all just move to Metropolis? Because in his opinion, all of this sounded crazy. Unexpectedly, Bruce got even angrier and slammed the table so hard that everything fell off. He said they wanted him to be honest with them and join the Batman movement. This is the real Batman. Seeing this, Ozzy actually calmed Bruce down. He just thought it was crazy, not that he didn't want to do it. Meanwhile, a news report announced that Mayor Hill had imposed a curfew, while Commissioner Bullock was trying to improve Gotham's security by collaborating with a private law enforcement agency. Martha, watching TV with Jim, asked what he meant by private law enforcement agencies. She argued that Jim should go back out there because he's a cop, but Jim insisted he'd already lost. Besides, they were cleaning up this campaign office before renting it out to someone else since it was all over. But Martha kept muttering that they should find another office, because this isn't how Gotham should look. Jim replied that what he meant by it's over was his term in office, but Martha was still there. Martha answered that she didn't want to be mayor, and Jim responded that this was Martha Wayne's time, so whatever she wanted to do, he would support her. Meanwhile, as Bruce lay on a bed piled high with money alongside Selina, Selina was seen kissing Bruce, after which Bruce mumbled that it felt comfortable. Selina jokingly replied that Bruce was weak. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and Selina immediately told Bruce to take the money and escape through the back window. But Bruce went to the door instead to peek at who was there. He saw that it was Waylon. Selina complained that Way hadn't sent a message before coming over. Then Way opened the door and replied that he got it. Bruce, who understood Way's meaning, immediately hugged him and asked if he'd really gotten the fight, and Way confirmed it. Selina, who didn't understand what they were talking about, asked what fight it was, and Way explained that it was a title fight against Bibbo Babowski. Bibbo was supposed to fight TG, but since he was underweight, they chose Way to replace him. Way suggested that Bruce train him, but Bruce said Waylon had many better trainers than him. However, Way wanted Bruce because he was his friend. They joked around and posed like boxers, then Way asked if Bruce was on the Croc team, and Bruce nodded while throwing a punch that Way easily caught. Suddenly, Way noticed a pile of money there, and then he asked if it was real money. Bruce fell silent upon hearing Waylon's question. Back to the present. Batman was putting on his diving gear, while Pennyworth asked if Bruce was okay, and Bruce nodded. Pennyworth was about to say something, but Bruce told him to hurry because he was leaving. And Pennyworth ultimately didn't speak, simply wishing him good luck, to which Bruce replied with a thank you. Batman swam upward from inside his submersible vehicle. He then tested the communication device, and Pennyworth confirmed that it was working properly. Batman dives toward a hole on the ocean's surface, and when he sees the situation on land is safe, he surfaces and removes his diving gear among the coral before walking away. Batman then climbs up a pipe while being monitored by Pennyworth. Batman reports that he has reached the entrance, but from the map, Pennyworth sees that his position is still 100 meters below the prison. At that moment, it seemed as though Batman couldn't hear Pennyworth. He pressed on and said he saw a light. As soon as Batman could see through the bars, he looked startled, while Pennyworth asked again what he saw, and Bruce said this was the real Arc-M. A vast area was visible, with light spreading out below it. Although Pennyworth tried to stop him and called out to him, Bruce could no longer hear him. At that moment, Pennyworth regretted not having told Bruce that he had once been in his position, thinking he could save his friend, but only to find that he had now become his enemy. Pennyworth looked at a photo of his friend wearing an eye patch over his right eye. He also saw an image of Bane in his book. Meanwhile, Bruce had found a well-lit room. He called out to Pennyworth but received no answer, then entered a room with a glass display case containing a human skull with long hands and fingers. Bruce kept trying to call out to Pennyworth, but of course Pennyworth's voice couldn't be heard, while Pennyworth could hear Bruce, who sounded terrified to him. That was when Bane appeared in front of Bruce and greeted him. Bane kicked Bruce, sending him to the ground, and Bruce got back up while gripping the tip of his cape's tentacle. Bane ordered Bruce to attack him, and Bruce finally released the tentacle tip, embedding it in Bane's chest. But showing no sign of pain, Bane told Bruce to come at him now, so Bruce launched a punch at Bane, who easily blocked it, while remarking that this was Muay Thai. Bane then strikes Bruce's elbow, instantly paralyzing his arm so he can't lift it anymore. Yet Bane tells him to keep attacking with his other hand. Bruce throws a punch with his other hand, while Bane recognizes it as a jab and praises his choice. But once again, his elbow is struck by Bane's finger, and that arm becomes paralyzed too. After that, Bane punched Bruce, sending him flying. Bane suggested that Bruce use his legs to attack him, but Bruce instead cursed at Bane and then kicked with his right leg, a move Bane recognized as sabotee. Once again, Bane struck the back of Bruce's right leg, paralyzing it as well, and then he punched Bruce until blood spattered. Bruce looked out of breath. He asked if that was all he could do, since Bruce only needed one leg to attack this juice-infused creature. Hearing this, Bane sensed that Bruce wanted to know what could be done with the juice connected to his body, so he activated it. Seeing the changes in Bane's body, Bruce looked stunned and wondered what kind of creature Bane was. It was clear that Bane, who had already been larger than Bruce, was now even much larger because the green juice connected to his body had been activated. Bane then lifted Batman's head with just one hand. He told Bruce to call him by the name Bane, then said they had to prepare Bruce for an operation. And that's how Batman faces the brutal challenges of Gotham in Absolute Batman 2025, confronting enemies and situations that push him to the edge like never before. This story isn't just about action, it's about morality, survival, and how even the Dark Knight can be tested beyond his limits. Batman proves that when the city he loves is on the brink, he will do whatever it takes, no matter how extreme it gets. Remember, Absolute Batman is still ongoing, so there's plenty more dark, intense storytelling to come. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Panelix for more comic deep dives and story explorations. Thanks for watching, and as always, I hope you have an amazing day.